All right, everybody, welcome back to the Now What Podcast. I'm your host, Arian Foster, Bobby Fino, a.k.a. the Pod God, and I got another special guest in the building. This one's going to be fun, man. I got my guy, Mike Rapaport in here.
What up, Arian?
What's up, baby? How you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm good. How's everything?
Everything is everything, man. I was on your podcast a long time ago.
I know.
I've always...
That might have been your first podcast.
I think it was, actually. You popped my cherry.
You were still in the league.
Yeah. Actually, I think it was. Yeah, man. That was when podcasting wasn't what it is today.
Now everybody got a podcast.
Yeah, everybody has a podcast.
Podcasts are like assholes. Everybody got one.
I wasn't different about that at first, but now it's like, I'm okay with it.
That everyone's got one?
I mean, because I feel like the cream always rises to the top.
Yeah, I agree.
Right. And I think people that put time into it and care about the content that they're putting out, their podcasts are going to kind of rise to the surface.
I agree. Yeah, I mean, I have, everybody could do their thing. It's just crazy that, like, my mom, my mom's friend, my dad's friend, everybody got a fucking podcast. But, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if my dad was like, I'm going to start a podcast. But it's good. It's good. Yeah, but it's that was good. I remember when you did it. I think it was heading into your last season.
Yep, heading into my last season.
And then you'd already, I had gotten the impression that you were already like ready to move forward and do all the stuff.
I was. Doing. It's hard to stay mentally checked in, especially as a running back. All that pounding you take.
How is your body? Like how do you feel like after football?
It's off. Like I could tell. Like it's just you kind of just commit to knowing that you're gonna be in pain the rest of your life.
Do you still like is the pain subsided, or is there things that have stayed with you? Like, what's the one nagging injury from football that you have that you wish you didn't have? Like, what's the one?
All right, I would say we were playing Detroit in 2012 on Thanksgiving actually. And I scored a touchdown. And when I was going in, it was like a goal line. And I was going in. Dude came from the side of my head and hit my head and made it like snap almost. And it fucked a nerve up or something. Because now every time that like if my chin is touching my chest, I can touch it and nothing happens. But if I'm looking up and you touch it at a certain place, it like sends a shooting pain.
Since right then?
Yeah, ever since then.
You sure that's not phone neck?
No, it's not.
Because I think I'm getting shit from the fucking
I wish it was phone neck.
Yeah,
but no, that shit hurts.
Damn.
And the worst part about it is like one of the best things I could do as a former athlete is get a massage. It's the greatest feeling on earth. But I have to tell them to be careful around that area because if they press it wrong, like it sends a shooting pain down my spine. So,
do some of your friends that you played with, like, are you like, damn, this one, like, are they banged up? Like, I mean, some of your guys are still playing.
Yeah,
like,
my guys are just starting to. They're either OGs or starting to find their ways out the league. So, but I mean, we talked about when we were in the league. It's painful. Like
I'm sure
it's just it doesn't go away. Which is why the NFL is kind of bullshit and how they should give lifelong health insurance plans.
Absolutely,
but they cut it off after 5 years. So
absolutely they should. They should absolutely do that.
No question.
I mean, this is like it's 150%. If any sport should be doing that. No,
it's that one, hockey, anything that is because you build the brand with the physicality of it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That I don't know how it works or what kind of 150%. I think there should be an NFL hospital. Like just make it like I don't know how you do it. But you put it in the middle of the country or you put two versions of it. It should be like where it's like where you guys have your own like central place, where they focus on NFL stuff, the commonality of NFL stuff. I mean,
I don't hate that.
I've thought about it should be like we're all you guys, like going back to Jack Lambert, to the Dick Butkuses, to the to you guys, to Barry Sanders and everybody.
A lot of those guys was fighting for health insurance for the longest. And
ridiculous,
the NFL trying
man.
To sweep it under the rug.
Come on, man.
That's the reason why you making $44 million a year, Roger Goodell. Like those guys.
Come on, man. Yeah,
you gotta take care of them.
Shit, these you see these football players like when I've seen them off camera. Like I remember seeing John Elway. I was doing some sports show with him. And he was just out of the league, and off camera, I mean, he was all fucked up. And then on camera, he was able to like walk,
put it together.
But I was like, damn, man, this guy's beat up. Like, look, Gronkowski, like he's a beloved player.
Yeah.
You know he wanted to play.
Of course.
That type of fucking pounding that he gave and took.
Yeah.
You wish like, I hope this guy, because that guy was out there taking hits, giving hits, big dude already, that body type.
At that level, I don't know anybody that doesn't want to ride off into the sunset at age 37 and win a Super Bowl. You know, that's how they want to leave their career. But the majority of us, you wake up at 32 like, yo, I can't walk to the bathroom in the morning. Fuck this. I'm going. I'm
26.
I'm done. Yeah, I'm
4
done.
years. Yeah,
I'm done.
I'm on the player's side for that.
No, we appreciate that, man. But man, it's great to have you, man. And I just want to dig into my podcast is kind of it's centered around guests and kind of their journey, man. So I kind of want to dig into your journey. Now, where are you from?
From New York City, from Manhattan.
You
right
got the
Manhattan.
Yankee hat on right now.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just wearing it. My hair's messed up. But yeah, grew up in New York City my whole life.
Yeah, that's interesting, man. It kind of gave you the pizzazz, and I call you the king of hot takes, man. You always in some shit, and it's hilarious.
Yeah.
So that New York background, is that where that came from?
I mean, it's not every New York. I can't put the way I behave on New York, but I definitely, came out talking shit, and I've always been a sort of disruptive personality. Like from when I was young, I just came out talking shit. My mom always tells me, like, you came out being a pain in the ass. And at first I was like offended by it. Like, then when you have kids and you kind of see like their temperaments are the way they start. But, sports, hip hop, growing up in New York City, I loved basketball. So growing up in New York City and in Manhattan, if you don't know the demographics of it, like where I lived on the east side of Manhattan, there wasn't a lot of great basketball players. So people were like, you gotta go find other places. You gotta go to other parks. So I wound up when I was 8, 9 years old, playing different parts of the city. And when I was, 10, 11, 12 years old, my best friends just when you're this young, they happen to be from Harlem, happen to be from Brooklyn, and then, so I wasn't the best ball player, but, when you're in New York at that time, or probably any city, it was like you either, could fight, you could play ball, people started rapping, you were like a stick-up kid, or you were really smart. Like, so I played ball. I was pretty good at ball, but I was definitely better at talking shit. That was how it was almost like a form of being able to fight, because people didn't want to fuck with you. If you could talk shit, you snap and shit.
Yeah.
So that's where that sort of general thing came. And, and as far as the stuff that people see on the internet and all that stuff, like I'm a fan, people confuse sometimes me, like I'm not an ex-athlete, I'm not an ex-rapper, I never was in the music business, I never had a music aspirations. I'm a fan. I grew up loving sports and grew up loving hip hop. Right. So when I talk shit about it, it's just a fan. Like I have no vested interest. I have no monetary stake in it, and that's why I could say what I say.
That's what I learned about if you have any kind of following, is you kind of have to be cognizant of what you say. It's because like if we're talking and there's no cameras and I could say, man, that dude is fucking awful, but I don't really mean it like that. It's just in the context of a conversation, like relative to what we're talking about. But like, how I always preface it is like in public, I'll never down anybody, because if you're at any kind of platform, it takes a certain amount of something to get there. So that I respect.
I agree.
And because of that, I'll never downplay it. And plus, when you talk about art, it's such a subjective thing. But if you say your opinion in public, somebody's going to combat it. But it's just hard to convey what you actually feel without. I didn't mean it like that.
I'll embrace the meaning like that. Like I'll never say like my biggest athlete that I go after probably is Tom Brady and LeBron James. And I'll sit here and say Tom Brady's the greatest quarterback ever, and LeBron James is one of the greatest basketball players ever.
You ain't giving him the crown?
Nah, I'm giving it to Jordan. But listen, if
I've been back and forth.
If he ain't the greatest, he's in the ballpark.
He's in the conversation.
But and I'm never gonna sit here and be like, I never say a football player or a basketball player sucks.
Right.
I never say that, because I've been fortunate enough to be around athletes, and I know what it takes. And you see, like when I do the big three, like you could watch Brian Scalabrine shoot shoot around in the gym, you're like, this is the greatest shooter I've ever seen in my life.
My eyes.
Ever in my life. Like you watch like
Right.
any
Right.
pro, sort of pro, Division I player, if you watch the 10th man on Wichita State, you put him in a pickup game, he'll bust everyone's
I
ass.
try to tell people that all the time.
They don't
They're
get
like,
it.
No, I'm like, no, I play pickup ball at because I live in Houston right now. I play pickup ball at this university called Rice, and it's this cat who for some reason has access to the gym, and we play pickup ball like every now and then. And there's this small cat, probably like 5'6", and he played college ball at some small D2 school. Goes to work. I'm
Killing
like,
everybody.
Yo, he's nice, and I'm like, yo, I'm an ex-professional athlete. I have trouble keeping him in front of me, and I'm
Right.
like, this is that at that
People
level.
don't
yeah,
get the
it's
difference.
different. It's different.
But with hip hop, I really understand the greatness, and I have such reverence, and it means so much to me. Like I am such a fan, and a deep-seated fan, and the music and all of it means so much to me. And if I think someone is, like LeBron was talking about the other day, and he's saying, I've never cheated the game, and I agree with him on that. In music, and particularly hip-hop, if I feel like you're cheating the game, and you're cheating the culture, and you're cheating the fucking basic principles of what made a rap music popular, that you could be trash and have like a good look or have fucking tattoos on your face and some made-up half story, and you put get your money, but be in on the joke. Like the one thing about this guy Tekashi 6ix9ine,
Right.
This dude was in on the joke. Like he knew I ain't shit.
Yeah.
I ain't trying to be. I'm not trying to be Rakim. I'm not trying to be Jay-Z. I'm just here to make the money. Now his music to me wasn't good, but I respect the fact that he's in on the joke.
Right.
Like he's like, yo, this is like wrestling to me.
Yeah,
but when you start,
that's what it's becoming anyway, though.
it's
character.
like
like
the
you have to have a
backstory.
character.
I get all that, but it's like if you just like, I'm such a fan. If you're whack. You're whack. I'm gonna say it, but I'm just a fan.
And see, I've been back and forth with this because when I was growing up, I had the same kind of feeling like hip hop is this place, and in order to be one of the greats, like you have to respect this place and this little box that we box hip hop in. And as I grew, I don't think it's a healthy way to think of that. I think hip hop is more like a tree. And like it has branches, and it's gonna branch off, and sometimes those branches don't coincide with the other branches. But it's more if it's the macro of what hip hop was, and for that I respect it. Like you enabled kids to get in a room on Fruity Loops and bang out a beat in 3 minutes,
Right.
and make a platinum record. Like the foundation laid that, and so for that I respect it. And so I used to get upset at the kids too. Like, what the fuck is this? Like, what is this? But it's like it's not my wave.
I know.
I can't relate.
It's not for us.
Yeah, it's not.
I mean, I'm older than you, so it's. I know it changes, but that still doesn't mean that I'm not gonna be like, yo, this shit is fucking garbage. This shit is just, yo, you're not dope.
I respect it.
Babe, but it ain't stopping people from going to your shows. I'm not trying to. I'm just saying, my opinion is you're whack.
Yeah.
Like you're not dope.
It's
And
the
it's like
penmanship.
basic fundamentals, man. Like
Yeah.
basic football fundamentals,
Yeah.
basic basketball fundamentals.
Yeah.
Like I look at it the same way. Like you got to be able to like, if you're a rapper, like if I was a rapper, I come on your show, you're like, yo, bust some shit. I got to be able to bust some shit.
Yeah, but see, I think that's where the game has changed, and where I had to kind of step back and say it's not that anymore. What it is now is
I get that.
and I've had some, like, I got some cats, some good partners that's still in the league, and they say like, yo, that's what these young cats are really about in sports now too. It's about the cool Instagram pictures and the poses and the followers, and like it's like a disease, man. It's really a disease, and so that's what it's become about. So like it's like asking Aerosmith to have Aerosmith on your radio station and be like, yo, sing a dope hook, and it's not that. It's not about penmanship. It's not about the art of hip hop. Like I remember when it first changed for me was really when I was young, and I grew up on. I used to love like underground East Coast hip hop. I'm talking about like Wordsworth, Lyricist Lounge, like that type of shit. I used to love that shit, and they used to freestyle. And freestyle means it's not written. Like you just go off the head. And that changed like when it was like my prime, like when I was 18, 19, 20 years old, they started putting freestyles on mixtapes. And I'm like, how is this? Like, this is written. I know it's written. And that shit totally changed for me. And so that's when it really started changing, and the commercialization of hip hop has. I mean, it's the number one genre in the world now.
It's crazy.
It's not the little brother anymore. So
and I love that, and I want everybody to get,
which is a whole nother.
I have no fucking.
Right.
I'm just a fan. So I'm the guy sitting in the not good to really bad seats in the arena who's cheering on their fucking team. Like, I'm just that dude. And when some shit is hot and dope and banging, I'm there, fucking. And if I see like Black Thought do a 12-minute freestyle
hard
or whatever the fuck it was on Funk Flex,
that was
I'm
hard.
fucking reposting that shit, and I'm acknowledging that shit too.
Yeah.
So it's like it goes both ways. Yeah. But when you talk, and I really like with the hot takes and the talking shit, like I never plan or expect anything to sort of provoke.
Right.
It just does. But I know this, 99.9% of the times when you say something positive, it doesn't get any traction. And like things will mean so much to me. Like Black Thought, like his record, like the Streams of Thought record, right. 1 and 2. Like I'm like, yo, motherfuckers don't care. I'm like, I'm like pumping that shit. I love this shit. No one gives a fuck.
No one cares.
But when you say something about one of these fucking dingbat rappers, everybody's like, I'm like, yo, get the fuck out of here with this shit, man. But also, it's like when you put yourself out there, like in terms of people's opinions, and you're a hater, you're like, that's part of the game. So if you're gonna talk shit,
I hate that part about it, and I hate that shit because it's like one of the best lines in hip hop. To address that situation was Common. He said, some of that shit y'all pop to, I ain't relating. If I don't like it, I don't like it. That don't mean that I'm hate. I used to love that shit because it's the truth, and it's so relevant today. What bothers me about this whole shit is like, I grew up on, of course, hip hop was my genre that I grew up on. I love, like I grew up on Pac and Snoop and like all them cats, but like I grew up on Earth, Wind and Fire. Like my people used to spin those vinyls in the house, and so I grew up on Earth, Wind and Fire, Parliament, like that kind of shit, and so. And maybe it's just me, it's a subjective thing, but I don't know what the metric is for quality and not quality anymore. You know what I mean?
I do. I won't wave off of what something's dope.
But if that used to be the metric, was like the string orchestra and the piano and how it was all brought together and it's composed. And now the metric is if it's viral. You know what I mean? And that's hard because that shit is just like a tipping point. Like Malcolm Gladwell's book, like it's a lot of probability in there. You don't really know what's going to pop or not.
Yeah.
Like that Old Town Road song that's popping right now.
Yeah.
I personally don't like that song.
But
it's fun to sing.
I don't even know where this shit came from. Like this whole thing.
Lil Nas X or something like that. And his name's Lil Nas. I know it's probably tough for you. But
but his name is Lil Nas X. So I'm saying like, yo, I don't know much about this dude, so I can't.
Yeah.
And I don't want to say anything, but I'm like, but I'm like, what is your name? Like your name's like, what is this shit? Like, what is this? Like your name's Little Nas X. Like, I remember when Big Sean, he was on a joint with Jay-Z and he said B.I.G. And I'm like, calling yourself B.I.G. Like, what the fuck is going on here? And he was on a joint with Jay-Z and I was like, how is this okay? Like, so next thing you know, someone's gonna be like, yo, this is Q-Tip. And then the next thing you're gonna be like, yo, this is Guru. And like, next thing you're like, yo, this is the notorious B.I.G. Like, what the fuck? Like, how are you calling your name is Big Sean, call yourself Big Sean, but everybody knows if you're referring to yourself as B.I.G., we know what that is.
What I know,
we know what the fuck that is. That's not to me. That's not okay.
Sacrilegious. I feel you.
That's like no one would say, yo, this Pac. This is you wouldn't do that.
But
you wouldn't say
here's
that.
Here's the difference. I think that you have a subset of rappers, and you have your Kendricks, your Coles, your Drakes, who make quality, who care about the content they put out, and they're established, and they're like on the Mount Rushmore of the generation. Those kind of guys respect the culture. And I think you have to when you're in that position. But it's the one-off guys, and they could have great careers. So but like those guys don't really understand the culture and understand the respect factor. About it. It's tough.
I agree. So that's my my shit on it. And I mean that's just my take on the shit.
No, of course.
Like I just don't understand.
I'm interested in this aspect from your vantage point because, and you don't know what I'm talking about when I say it, but there's like a certain kind of white dude that can traverse through black culture and understand it, and I don't want to say be accepted because that's kind of corny, but just kind of understand the culture, and you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I get it.
What is that? What has that experience been like for you? Because like you're one of those cats who, I'm not saying like you are of black culture. That's not what I'm saying.
No, I got you.
I'm saying you understand it, and I think you respect it like a little differently than somebody who, like a Republican.
You know, for me, like I said, when I grew up, I was growing up in New York City. When I was so young, when I started hanging around black kids, my friends, we would just like had things in common. You play ball, I play ball. Yo, okay, let's go play ball. Right. Where are you from? Brooklyn. Oh shit, really? I never been out there. Yo, come on out there. You're 11, 12 years old.
Right.
I go into the projects. Like the projects in Brownsville, Brooklyn. Like Brownsville's where Mike Tyson's from. And this is in the 80s, 81, 82. This is like pop shit.
The height of the crack epidemic.
Yeah, and in Harlem. And like I was looked at, like people were like, you're so young, but like people were like, what the fuck is this what's this white boy doing out here? Yeah. But when you're so young, I'm there to play ball. Right. You know, and then like, yo, it's getting late. Yo, I'm gonna stay over here. I sleep over, you know, like, and vice versa. But for me, like it was just an organic thing. And hip hop, because I was exposed to it so young, and it was so underground and so sort of evolving day after day, record after record, radio broadcast after radio broadcast, park jam after park jam. So all my sort of discovery into black shit or black culture or whatever you want to call it, like it just happened, you know. And then when I was 19. I came out to Los Angeles to pursue a career in comedy, and all my basketball hoop dreams, you know, went away and all that stuff. And people started, when I came out, they'd be like, "Yo, the way you talk and all that shit." Like it hadn't really been brought to my attention when I was there, because all I was around was black dudes, and you know, dated black girls and Puerto Rican girls, and it's some New York shit. And you know, there was a few of us of white kids that were around, but it wasn't like I was. It just was what it was. And you know, as far as you know, sometimes people, social media, because no one ever says this in real life. They'll be like, "Yo, you're too comfortable speaking on black culture," and I'm like, shouldn't we get to that point where we should feel comfortable having conversations? And you know, when people they shouldn't feel like ridden with guilt, or like, because to me that's racist from white people, like where they treat black people like they're this foreign object. Because a lot of people they do and it's because they don't know any black people.
Well, this is what I'm saying,
and they don't know any Puerto Rican, and that to me is the most offensive racist shit, because they're like, oh well, tell me, like, in my opinion, if I was a young black man right now, I would be trying to fuck every white girl I possibly can, because white guilt is at an all-time high. Like white guilt right now, you could tell any.
Don't do that.
No, but I'm just saying, if you're like, yo,
Me too is out too.
White guilt is at an all-time high. So you could just, you know, so for me, it's just like, it is what it is. If I've been an asshole since I came out.
Right, but
it ain't got nothing to do with me being a white guy.
No, the aspect that I'm kind of trying to dig at, and what's interesting to me is like, say I know you got some white friends that aren't of that ilk, and didn't grow up around it, and don't really understand it.
My whole family.
So how would you explain that to a white person that's not from it? Like, what would you say the differences in culture is? Like,
man, there's so many differences in the culture. I mean, I think, man, that's a good question. I think,
because this is why I've always been interested in it. I've always been interested because like that's who I'm from. That's who I am, right?
Yeah.
And I know the other side because I've rubbed elbows with the wealthy people.
Yeah.
Right? So like I understand the other side, but even when I go to that side, I can't take this side off. You know what I'm saying?
I totally understand.
What's interesting about like white dudes like you is you can take that side off.
Yes. Yeah.
You know
I got you. Man, I think that. Probably, I'm trying to like think like the first.
Yeah, it's tough. It's a tough question. It's an essay question.
But no. But you know what it is? I think like, listen, it's all about, I think, finances and you know, economics first. But from when I was young, the thing that and I was unruly in school before I was hanging out in the hood. But the thing that I liked, looking back on it, I didn't understand it as a kid. But when I look back at like being in the hood, playing ball in the hood, talking shit in the hood, the rules were very clear on how to behave.
Right.
And what you could get away with and what you can't get away with. What you could say, who you could say it to, how you could say it, and what you can't and cannot do.
Right.
And it was not just in the park, it was in the house. Like my friends' parents were a lot stricter. Black parents were a lot stricter. Now that doesn't mean every black parent.
Of course.
But because we get
but it's the majority.
Yeah, and it'd be like a general thing.
Yeah.
Because there's other parents, especially, people also think like white, Jewish, like Jewish, like Jewish people are one way, immigrants are going to be another way, like Italians, and in New York you have all that. Like Irish, they're going to be, and Puerto Ricans are going to be different. And and I love that we're all different, and I think that we should all embrace our differences. One of the things that I don't like about right now is like we're trying to meld everybody, and everybody's the same. When you ask about culture, like there is differences. We speak differently. Our parents, there's going to be different ways of disciplining.
Right.
There's going to be, different, like, if you talk shit, like, you better be ready to throw the fuck down.
Right.
Whereas you might talk shit like in a different area and like it's just ha 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 ha
Right.
laughed off. So, the shit that we eat, like I used to be in my friends, this is just straight the fuck up. Like I'm 11, 12 years old. My mom, my best friend's mom used to throw down every night with food. Yeah. And I remember one night she had chitlins in her pan.
Chitlins.
And I was like, I had never had this shit before.
Yeah, that's not my style.
This was heaven for me, though. That shit was on
you like chitlins?
Point. Are you? I wish people are all vegetarian.
Shit smells terrible.
I fuck with chitlins hard.
That shit's gross. See, I grew up. My father was Muslim, and he was like FOI Muslim, like Malcolm X and Elijah Muhammad, and so we was taught like pig intestines was the bottom of the food, and so we never.
My man's people were from South Carolina.
Yeah, so it's a Southern thing for sure.
I'm fucking with those chitlins, but I remember like we had eaten and I woke up late. I had slept over. I'm in the projects, like where there would be gunshots. And I remember the first time I heard gunshots, I'm in New York City. I'm not in Iraq. This is New York City. I'm from Manhattan.
Right.
Like the demographics are very different.
Yeah.
But I remember being like, what the, they were laughing at me.
Yeah.
and I was like, and I look back, I'm like, that's fucking sad.
Yeah.
That motherfuckers who are my age are desensitized to gunshots. We're in Brooklyn.
Yeah. And see, that's part of
that's crazy.
That's part of the reason why I asked you what I asked you is because it's like when you the cultural differences is like that's one. Like confrontation. That's what I noticed about like confrontation. Like anytime you generalize, of course there's gonna be outliers.
Yeah, so
but generally, like black folks aren't shy about confrontation, and a lot of the times confrontation, like I noticed this. What was I watching? I was watching something. What was I watching? I don't remember, but it was this news clip, and they were talking about, I don't know, two people interacting, and like there was this white lady host afterwards, and they were talking about like he's just so aggressive, and that kind of aggression is just leads to violence, and I'm like, yo, he was just passionate, and like those subtle differences is what I noticed, like kind of coming out was like there's those cultural differences, and they have huge implications in my opinion. So it's the reason why like an officer will feel threatened or something like that because of small cultural differences like that. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I was interested in the aspect of it, like you like the shit that you noticed and like what you took, going back to your place. Yeah. And then kind of like saying like, nah, like it's cool, something like that.
Yeah. I remember, I'll tell you something, this is like I'm like 15 or 16, and two of my friends, both black kids, we were in my room watching TV. It was like a weekend, watching a game or a fight or some shit. And my father was in the other room. And we were in there. I mean, we were kids. Fuck this, fuck that, N-word this, N-word that, fuck this, fuck that, N-word this. And my father is out. He came, what he was baffled, not by the cursing, like the N-word being thrown. He was confused. He was like, didn't understand like what the fuck was going on. He was like, yo, he was talking to us, and then you guys bring it down. Like, there's too much cursing. And then he came back in. He was like, he still reminds me about this. Like, I didn't understand. Like, he still doesn't understand that. And that's like, you know, like when you say bring it back, like we're in my crib, and we were, you know, middle class, but it was like just different. And like that influence and being around that shit just informed who I am.
Yeah.
And you know, seeing, you know, and also like seeing, you know, like Kyle Korver's getting good and bad.
I haven't read that article yet, but
It's good.
I heard it was great.
It's good. It's good. You know, some people are saying, you know, like you know, there's 2 points because I think that if you truly are, listen, I think that there's prejudice amongst all of us.
Yeah.
I
think prejudice is a good thing. I think having prejudice is a good thing. It can be a good thing. I think, but there's a distinct difference between prejudice and racist.
Yeah.
Racist you have a superiority complex.
Right.
Prejudice means you just prejudge people. If I see, you know, a Middle Eastern cat with a turban on his head in the airport, in my mind, I'm thinking jokes about plane bombings. That's just my mind. But it doesn't mean I don't act on it. I don't think I'm better than him. It's just, I'm prejudging him. Right.
But I think people are ashamed of their prejudices.
I don't think you should be.
I don't think you should be either.
You should talk about it, but I don't think you should act on it. Like, I don't think you should say, hey, you about to blow up the plane. If you're not comfortable in that relationship. You know what I'm saying?
No,
like,
I agree.
You know what I'm saying? Like, but I think prejudice is actually healthy. It puts our differences on the table and allows it to be discussed in a healthy manner. Like, yo, you probably shouldn't say that. I don't like when you say that.
Right.
Or that's cool to say that around me. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I think prejudice is healthy, but when you start,
people are ashamed of it though. People are ashamed, and now it's like if you like I could say some shit on your podcast right now in the next fucking half hour while I'm here, and my whole shit could be. Yo, that's it.
Do it. We're gonna get all kinds of
end your fucking, you know what I mean? Just or it could be taken out of context, you know? And you know, I can't stand Trump, but the reality is some of the shit they do with him is fucked up with the way they chop his. Like what? You know, he said some shit the other like the way they'll present a clip. They'll present a clip.
That's media, yeah.
And it's media, but like listen, I can't stand this fucking guy.
Yeah.
I'm on record. I never in my fucking mind thought that I'd be like talking about a president like he's just a low down shitbag. I never would imagine that like, because growing up you had reverence for presidents, whether you agreed with them or not. It's the president of the United States. And this guy's brought it to a fucking, you know, the way he talks, the way he talks about his own people.
That's another cultural difference. We never had that reverence.
but nobody was ever like this cocks like I mean.
Yeah, we were.
Publicly.
No.
He made it cool. He made it acceptable because he brought it
and so this is where I argue with people, where I say President Trump was good for America. And
Trump is good.
This is where he's good for America. He has, I'm not a Trump fan, he has diluted the reverence of that position.
Yes.
Which I believe it never should have held that reverence in the first place. Because nobody on this earth is qualified to lead a country of 300 million people. Nobody's qualified. So like this superiority complex of the president, like, yo, you have hundreds of staffs calling shots, writing legislation. It's not just you. You know what I'm saying? You're just a kind of a representation of leadership and where the direction you're going to lead your administration to.
Yeah.
So he has diluted the reverence of that position, which I think is a good thing.
I agree with you with what you're saying about that. But this guy's not a fucking used car salesman. Like there has to be some respect for the fact that you're the fucking president, like the way he talks.
Yeah.
You know, and people say, well, you talk the same way you talk shit. You're from New York. Yo, I'm not the president.
Yeah.
I'm in here talking shit. You know what I mean? I could be fucking drinking. I'm not the president. I'm an actor, podcaster, shit talker.
Right.
Like at least carry yourself with some fucking respect.
I think a simpler way to put it is, I think the issue that I have with him is, if you're the quote unquote leader of the free world, like you have no interest in diplomacy. Like you can say whatever you want to say, but there's a way to say it.
Fuck yeah.
To I don't say make people feel comfortable, but to make people understand where you're coming from. Like, you don't have to say it like that. And that just visceral gut, say whatever the fuck you feel. Like that, I don't think that's cool when you're leading people.
That's what I'm saying.
I don't think that's cool.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And I think in a way it is good that he's blown up the bridge, but
Definitely.
Like this dude, I mean, he's just way the fuck out there, man. Like I don't think he understands. He'll know. Hopefully, he'll live long enough past his term to really see just how fucked up and how fucking.
Nah, he's 70. So he's done.
He got a lot of stamina, man.
I'm talking about he's done. Like, ain't no self-reflection. Like, you ran a campaign off of arrogance and won. Like, how will you ever be humbled?
I wish.
And he's gonna win again.
I know.
He's gonna win again.
He's gonna win again.
There's no question
it's
he's gonna win.
damn shame.
There's no question he's gonna win.
And
we could rally all we want.
Because these motherfuckers are finger pointing, jack faking motherfuckers too.
Well, what he's done.
All the people running, they're all full of shit.
Yeah. Well, of course. But what he did was, which was smart, which was I hate to do this, but it's the truth. He did what, like Adolf Hitler did. He did what the early presidents in this country did, like the racist slave owners.
Mm-hmm.
What they did was, you got the middle class and the poor whites to feel like they were getting outed.
Yeah.
Like, and once you do that, because this is a majority white country, so once you do that and you feel like you're on the defense, I mean, you hear it all the time with all this rhetoric, because I follow a lot of like right-wing conservative talking heads.
I do too.
Yeah, and so,
I think it's important because it's like if you're playing the Patriots and you can look in their playbook.
100%. Yeah,
people don't understand why I listen to some of that shit. I'm like, yo,
you have to have a balanced diet. You have to have a balanced diet.
It is balanced too, and not everything these fucking guys say is fucking off the wall crazy.
Nah, I've learned some things, and more so I've learned a lot about myself, because I agree. It's another recurring thing about my podcast. Is like I try to convince people to think as logically as possible, and part of that is kind of cross-corroborating your information.
I agree.
If you don't, you're going to live in this echo chamber of your thoughts, and you're going to continue to develop your confirmation bias to convince yourself that you're correct.
Like a bad rapper. Like if you're a bad rapper, we're in here saying like, yo, that shit is hot. That shit is hot.
And your crew keep backing that shit up.
Yeah, and you don't have somebody like me saying, yo, your shit is straight fucking doo-doo.
1,000%. Man, so I don't get on politics, but like, yo, how did you get into acting? Because one of the things that I knew you for, and I will never forget, unfortunately, is that you was Remy.
Yes.
And higher learning. And that cognitive dissonance was probably hard for you, because you grew up around black people, and here you playing this racist white supremacist on a movie. But like, that's how was that role, by the way?
I mean, I as far as the role, it was. I say this sometimes, people are like, what the fuck you mean? But like, it was a lot of fun to play because of the challenge of it, because as an opportunity, as an actor, as a young actor at that time, to play something that was so different from me. And I was aware of how different it was from me personally, and how great of an opportunity it was. I never thought twice, like, oh, what are people going to think? Or I was like, yo, this is a great opportunity to play a great part, and I'm going to bring as much genuineness and as much honesty to the character, and make him as well-rounded and human as possible. You're not thinking at the act, like when you're playing a part, you're not thinking of, well, I'm playing a bad guy. You're like, I'm playing a guy. This is his journey. And because if I think I'm playing a bad guy, then I'm going to play it like a bad guy. I'm playing it like an innocent guy. And it's crazy because I've had the opportunity to do so many different things, but that character has resonated, and still people know him by the name of the character, right, because I think it was so honest. Yeah. As far as being on the set, like, it was like it was such a fun set to be on, but because I was playing
legends on the set.
It was at first. It was John Singleton, Q, Regina King, Omar Epps, Busta Rhymes, and like,
was it, Lawrence Fishburne was in it.
Lawrence Fishburne,
Jesus,
and it wasn't like it was. There was times where it was tense, but everybody knew we were acting. Right. But it was like like the my character was kind of by himself, and everybody else was kind of chilling. Like the skinheads were kind of doing their thing individually and by themselves, but like Omar Epps was in the trailer. They were in there having their fun and, smoking their shit, and Regina King, and Cube and all. And I was like, I want to fucking hang out with Ice Cube and shit. Like, I'm a fucking, and I remember Omar.
Guys, I'm not really like this.
Yeah, like, yo, I want to chill. Like, I told Omar
That's
this.
crazy, though.
Yeah, and one of the crazy things about that set, and me and Omar talked about this. I can't remember what year it was. It was 94. Was it 94? Whatever year it was. We were shooting in 94, I believe. I could be wrong. 1993, 94, whatever it was. And there was such anticipation for Nas's Illmatic to come out.
Wow.
And everybody knew it was coming out. It was like, there wasn't no phones. It was like, yo, we heard about it. You heard about it. You heard about it. And I remember walking from the set back to my trailer. And I walked past Omar's trailer. And, he had like his friends in there, his people who I knew. We had friends in common. I had friends that went to school with Omar and all that shit. And I remember walking past the trailer and be like, yo, what the fuck is that? And it was like, yo, this is Nas's shit. This is Illmatic. And I was like, and I remember it was the AZ verse, realizing the realism of that nationality, fuck who's the baddest person depends on a person's salary. Yeah. And I remember like, how the fuck did you get this shit? And he was like, he told me later on that he got it from John Singleton because they had submitted it to be in higher learning.
Oh, wow.
But
that's so dope though.
But I remember hearing that shit, and I remember being like, fuck, I want to be in the fucking trailer and fucking listen to Nas shit. Right. No, it wasn't really welcoming like that, but it was a fun film to be a part of. It was a fun character to play, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, for sure.
And I got into acting because I when I was 19 and I realized I was not even going to go to college to play basketball in any division. There was no Division 4, Division 5, Division 6 wasn't taking me. I started rethinking what I was going to do with myself, and I started doing stand-up comedy. And the stand-up comedy got me into acting. And as much as I played basketball my whole life and practiced and, worked out and practiced and played, the first time that I ever acted, the first time I ever read a scene, it probably came as natural to me as playing football came to you. There's a natural, when you watch like Usain Bolt or like sprinters or like gymnasts doing their shit, they're breathing, like they're so relaxed. And I never had that the same way in basketball or sports, the same way I had it when I was acting. Like the first time I did it, I was like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to be successful at it. And like this
feeling,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like when you play football, it's not like a guy in the back flag football, like, oh shit, like you're relaxed. Yeah. That's how I am with acting. And I was like, that's what I'm going to do.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So
that's a dope story, man. Cause it's hard to make a living in this country, man. Like it's hard, and so like you at a high school, you don't know what you want to do, and you just try stand up, and you say, okay, I'm gonna do acting, and then you find your niche like that. Like a lot of people struggle their whole lives and don't find that.
I was lucky.
Yeah,
I was lucky to find it and to have the opportunity, and then I just got lucky, man. It was good timing for some good parts when I was young, and people when young actors. Athletes, it's probably the same, young actors, or it's probably the same for musicians. They say to me, well, you got any advice for a young actor? And I say, yo, don't dip your foot in the pool. Go. Jump in the whole fucking pool because this business is not for the meek. This business is not going to hold your hand. And like for me, like I was like, well, fuck this. Like once I acted for the first time, it was just an audition. I was like, I'm doing this. I'm fucking done with college. I had done one semester. I'm done. This is what I'm doing. And I knew that I was going to do it. Like that was like, I had that attitude, like that I knew that I was going to do it. And I had, got good breaks and good opportunities young. But like, there was no like, well, what if I fail? Like, I didn't think that.
That's a reoccurring thing with successful people. That's one of my best friends. He always says, "Success rhymes, don't it?" It's like everybody kind of has the same story like that. They're successful, and like I remember my moment, and I didn't really understand the saying until I got a little older that ignorance is bliss. It's because when I look back on my journey, dog, the odds of what I did were so small.
Crazy.
I grew up in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and I had no shit, like it's just nothing, right? I had nothing, and all of a sudden I made this crazy life, and it's like when you look back, like as an adult, you're like, oh, I was kind of tripping with some of my decisions. Like,
right?
I had no idea what I was doing, but I'm
sure
I just knew I knew what I was doing.
Right,
which is wild. It's a wild,
and it truly ignorance is bliss.
Yeah, man. You don't know what you don't know, and that actually helps you be fearless.
Yeah.
And that fearlessness is, and I think that's why a lot of people don't ever obtain the things they want to obtain, and a lot of people don't ever go chase the dreams that they want to chase, because you have to leave a comfort zone that says, I'm gonna be hungry tonight, I'm gonna sleep on this couch.
Right.
Because in the back of your mind, you ain't worried about nobody else says. In the back of your mind, it's like, I see myself in this house. I see
Right.
myself in this. I remember vividly in high school, like all my cats was, they would be like messing around after school, whatever. Like, and I used to run around the track. I used to run hills, and I used to visualize like there's a pile of money on top of the hill. I used to think that. I was
get
like,
you to do it.
Yeah, like, cause I'd be dead tired of like, there's money up there. So I used to tell myself there's money up there. That's how I played a little game with myself.
Shit.
But the funny shit is, like, some of my best friends are, I got some friends from high school, and they say, dog, like, that was we used to make fun of you for running around on the track and shit. But like now it's like we knew exactly what you was doing, and you knew what you was doing. I was like, I really didn't. I just didn't.
Right.
Being broke drove me more than anything else. It just I didn't want to do that.
Right. That's crazy.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, I mean, shit, man. It's like the good fortune. I mean, like to be a fucking professional athlete, to be a running back in the NFL, that's insane.
And it never really hit me, actually.
While you were doing it?
Nah, it was always like I was supposed to be here. So I never had that like, man, I'm in the NFL. It just always felt like, yeah, of course. Like, that's what I did. It didn't hit me really till afterward. It was like, yeah, I really
you reflect back.
Yeah, I look back on my, like, I don't ever watch my highlights or really. Like, sometimes maybe I'll get drunk and I'll throw them on YouTube or something like that. But like never really. But like I'll look back just like at the life of it. Like yo, my mother's retired. Like my father's retired. He has a house. Like, you know what I'm saying? I'm able to take care of my family. Like,
From playing football.
Yeah, and that's the shit.
Crazy.
That's the shit that drove me when I was a kid. Like, and to have, that's the thing that pisses me off about people who kind of like denigrate athletes as far as.
What do you mean?
You deal with a lot of like. When I was playing, I was like, "Oh, you don't have a real job," and I was like, "What the fuck are you talking about?" Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you deal with that a lot. Like, it comes from a lot of angles. But what used to bother me about it is like, imagine a little kid, an adult telling a story about a little kid, and when he was 7 years old, he had an idea, and he worked his entire life to get that, and he wasn't able to obtain that idea until he was 23 years old. But the wherewithal and the patience and the discipline that he had to have to do the things he needed to do day in and day out to obtain that goal, you would be like, fucking bravo. But because it's a sport, you think anybody could just hop out there and do that shit. It's not the case.
That's some jealous ass, hating ass shit.
Man,
that's crazy.
What this world is full of.
But I mean, with athletes and shit, it's like, yo, man, that shit is such a fucking lightning in a bottle, man. It's so far and few between. And you've seen dudes that you played college with, played against, like they just, or guys that tried out for the team, they just might not be as good at one little thing, or they might not been that good on that one day where you seen him in camp, and you know, like the fucking breaks are so, you know, and these guys like get a shot and you're like, where did this motherfucker come from? It's like, this motherfucker just never had the shot, and there's plenty of people that never had the shot or blew the shot. I mean,
I know I played probably 3 or 4 guys that Pro Bowl, maybe Hall of Fame caliber players, but just couldn't get it together off the field, or the expectations. What I feel like expectations were too steep as a fucking 18-year-old, 19-year-old. Yeah, and they just ruined it. And it really is just the outside sources. So like coaches saying he's a this, he's a that, and it's like, dog, he's a 19-year-old kid from a broken home, right, with his family's hopes and dreams riding on his shoulders. Like, you're tripping.
Yeah,
I used to think that too.
I mean, sports is it's a whole other level of pressure and opportunity, and like there ain't like, oh well, yeah, you get discovered at 35, you're gonna be in this movie. You know, these actors and shit. It's like there ain't no 35-year-old discovery or 45-year-old. Oh, you're gonna be the quarterback for the fucking Rams and shit. It's a short window, and I mean, I have just such respect for athletes. I talk a lot of shit, but if you know. I never insult the play. You know, it's the behavior and it's the bullshit, and like I make fun and all that stuff. But like,
so what's the worst, like the worst blowback you've gotten from like a criticism of an athlete where you sat back and you're like, fuck, man, I don't want him thinking I think of him like that.
No, none.
None of that?
Nah, because
Okay.
I know what my respect level is.
Okay.
And like I said, I don't respect. I mean, I have like 1 to 12,
Right.
1 to 52 on the NFL. Like I've been at fucking like front row at NFL practices, and you watch these motherfuckers, and I'm like, what the your shit's stupid.
Yeah.
And I like
I remember it was 2011, and it was the year before I led the league in rushing, so I was coming off of that season, and just to let you know how even surreal it is for football players, is I was standing off the field, and it was I think the third preseason game, and so I wasn't playing that much, and so it's like the fourth quarter, and this is like the fourth team guys that are busting ass for a roster spot, and I'm watching them, and I'm looking from the sidelines, and I'm standing by my team doctor, and they're going at it, and they're just hitting hard as fuck, and I'm like, Jesus Christ, I said, does it look like that when we out there? And he's like, it's worse. And I'm like, but you don't think of it like that because you in it, you know what I mean? And it's surreal.
Football, I mean, and
Wow.
football is a different shit because, I mean, one of the things where I never, listen, like I said, Tom Brady's the best, but he ain't on my team. It's like, of course I'm not going to root for him. It's like if you're rooting for
That's the beauty of
Batman
sports,
or the
though.
Joker. It's like,
Yeah.
I'm sitting here saying, I know he's the best. I'm not rooting for this fucking guy.
Yeah.
So, it's like the person is different than the player. It's like Larry Bird. Whether he's your top 5, top 10, I couldn't stand this motherfucker. Michael Jordan, he wasn't an issue to me until he started fucking my Knicks up. You think I was sitting there cheering this motherfucker?
Yeah.
Fuck this guy. Fuck Michael Jordan. Fuck Reggie Miller.
And I see that's the shit there that, like, in your heart of hearts, you like, I don't dislike the dude. I'm just saying he's not my guy.
He's
right?
not my guy.
But like as an athlete, like you're looking at the tweets, you're looking at you're listening to the fans, you're like, dog, I'm just out here trying to feed my family. Like, why would you say that? They don't know your intention. I'm not saying
yeah, when people go into some other shit, you suck.
But no, what I'm saying is like when you like fuck that guy. Like I'm just saying from our vantage. I'm not do you. I'm just saying the other side is like, damn, like what did I do? Like I'm just out here trying to feel like I don't want to play for these people. This is the one that I'm playing for. You know what I'm saying?
Trust me, I get it, and I'm sure once you make it, because you grew up, you hated this team, you loved this team.
Yeah, of course, I love the Raiders.
But like it was the team, and so it's like when you say,
I understand it. I understand both sides. This is why I kind of stay out of it.
I know LeBron is a great guy, and he's destined to do great things.
Mm-hmm.
Like if he focuses his head, he might one day want to run for president, and I think he'd be a great president.
I don't think he should do that.
I'm just saying, like he has that, that thought,
Yeah.
and all that stuff. But that don't mean I have to root for this guy's team to win. I just said he's one of the best players ever. That don't mean he's not on my team.
I think that's a fun thing
This
about
is
sports.
sports.
Yeah, I think it's a fun thing about
it's
sports.
like one of the beauty of sports is I could sit here and cry like I did last night when Magic Johnson stepped down because I love Magic from when I was a kid.
Right.
I'm a Knicks fan. I don't give a fuck about the Lakers. I've never given a fuck about the Lakers. Like I loved him when but it was never my team. Even when I was rooting for him to beat the Celtics. But I like it's sports. I know Magic because I'm famous myself, but he doesn't give a fuck about Michael Rapaport. But I'm crying because he means that much to me. Right. Just like people cried last night because Dwayne Wade and Dirk Nowitzki retired. Like it's not. It's an outlet. So if you're gonna have the love of the sports and you're gonna have the love of your guys, you have to have the hate of the Boston Red Sox.
So that's what I learned.
It's theater to me. It ain't personal. So when I see these dudes, now listen, there might be a couple of players that if they see me, they may be like, fuck you, and I get it. You're like, I've said some things, but it's never you're a shitty, like, I don't go off on, dudes like you're fucking a bad dad, and and like with LeBron, I'm like, it's all on the court. What he did last summer in the school and the way that he talks shit and goes at Trump, I fucking love that shit.
All right.
But while you're playing in this fucking NBA, I'm gonna be on your fucking ass. Reggie Miller.
I respect that.
Reggie Miller. I used to go at him. Spike was most famous for it. I used to go at Reggie. I used to talk a lot of shit to Reggie. Just before the internet and before Instagram, I used to talk shit to him. When he retired, I saw him at a club or a restaurant. I said, yo, Reg, fucking, I couldn't stand you, but I respected you. He said to me, he was like, yo, you ready to stop talking shit? I said, yo, yeah, I'm ready. You're not playing no more, so we're Gucci.
We good money.
but like, It's the theater, it's the character. It's the character of Reggie Miller. He knew doing all that shit and talking. That's the character. Has nothing to do with the person. And that's when people say you're a hater. I'm like, yo, I'm not rooting for this guy.
I think that's what was hard for me, right? So I used to hate fantasy football.
Right.
We talked about hated that shit. But what I realized,
because you motherfuckers,
oh my God,
really take it serious.
Yeah, so it's like
I'm one of those people.
Yeah, so what I realized was I took it too personally, and it was my fault. I took that shit personally, like, man, fuck you, fuck my season. I'm like, fuck you and fuck your season. I
just led the league in rushing.
Yeah, like
the fuck are you talking about?
Season,
fuck
right?
your season.
Oh, you're hurt, man. Fuck you. I just like that's what used to kill me. Like, man, you're hurt all the time. Like, dog, imagine going to work and there's 2 ambulances on both sides of your office.
Man, that's
a real thing,
that's
right?
Real shit.
People don't think about it like that.
No, it's real.
But I get it though, so I understand.
Do you fuck with it now, fantasy?
I don't say I fuck with it, but like if somebody like enjoys me in the league, I'll tell you a horror story.
That's funny, man.
I'll tell you a horror story. I joined a fantasy league with a lot of my cats I was playing with. It was either in the league or like out of the league, just a whole bunch of the homies.
Since you retired?
Yeah, I retired. And so I was like, all right, let's do a fantasy draft. We did a fantasy draft, and I ended up quitting. I think we all put like $1,000 or $2,000 in a pot or something like that, and I ended up quitting in mid-season because the fucking commissioner, fuck you, Antoine, the fucking commissioner, like switched the rules because it went in my favor. Like one of the guys, he dropped out. He just stopped playing. And so I hit him and I was like, yo, give me OBJ. And he was like, bet. And so I traded him like some podunk receiver for OBJ. And he was like, nah, you can't do that. But another dude that was in the league kind of fell off too. And he gave him, who's the cat number? Diggs for Minnesota.
Stephon.
Yeah, so they gave him for some like third string running back.
Right.
And I was like,
bad commissioner.
Yeah, and I was like, yo, nobody.
Fuck you, Antoine.
Fuck you, Antoine.
Antoine, you're a fucking bullshit commissioner. Your guy Antoine ain't shit.
I was saying that shit too. I can't
fucking
wait.
Antoine, you're a fucking bullshit commissioner, man.
But that's what I'm saying. So I was like, man, fuck that shit. But I was pissed, dog, because I was like, yo, and everybody was vetoing my trade. I'm like, why is everybody on my trade, but y'all ain't want to fuck with my guy? And it just pissed me off, so I just left. I don't even know who won. But it was fun. I'm not going to lie. The draft, it was fun. I got into it.
The camaraderie and the shit talking.
Yeah, it was fun.
And you can see how, as a crazy person, because I'm nuts with my fantasy, like, you know, how it becomes like this is my team. You know, these are my players.
I drafted these guys.
Yeah, this is my
GM.
This is my brilliance. You know what I mean? I know you don't go deep into football, but I have to ask you your opinion on Antonio Brown, Juju Schuster,
right.
and remind everybody that after Antonio Brown got illegally hit by fucking dirty ass Vontaze Burfict, the next year,
I love Vontaze though.
Juju came, knocked his ass out.
I did see that. Okay.
Blatantly, intentionally, and not only did he knock his ass out, he talked shit to him. And then for Antonio Brown, who we know he's great, to be going at him like to Juju and like pulling out old DMs when he was in college asking for advice, my opinion is like, yo, you played yourself. First of all, you wanted out of Pittsburgh. You wanted to get paid. You got out of Pittsburgh. You got paid. Why are you fucking with this young gun? Let him shine. Why, like especially like. And then it makes me think like, and I like the Steelers, but I'm a Giants fan. Like maybe it wasn't all Ben that was fucked up out there. Because if Antonio's if this is the real him, like, yo, you disrespecting this guy. You just got paid. You moved on. Why are you shitting on this young dude? He's doing things, and he knocked out perfect for you.
Right. I got inside information.
Give it to me.
I won't.
Come on.
Because sometimes what, and this is the issue. I'll say it like this. I'm cut from a different cloth. If I got a problem with a cat, I'll never beef with him over the internet. Like I definitely talk shit to internet trolls and we go back and forth with that banter. That's fun. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about if
like a friend.
If I know a cat,
this is a work. This is a business.
If I know somebody, if you in my phone, or if I know how to get a hold of you, I'll never talk to you on the internet,
right?
Negatively,
right? Unless it's playful.
Nah, if I got a problem with you, I'll come see you. That's just how I was raised. I'm just cut from a different cloth. Like, and I don't know Antonio Brown. Like I met him a couple times. Like we shook hands. So like I can't speak on his character. But all I know is like that doesn't have anything to do with football. It's just the code that I grew up with. Was like if you have a problem with somebody, go holler at him. Because when you do that, you invite everybody else to the party.
Yeah, to have an opinion.
They wasn't never invited.
And he makes someone who was, relatively likable, pretty likable. Now he's like, everybody's like, fuck Antonio Brown.
Going to the Raiders too. The Raiders are notorious for the bad boy shit. But this isn't
bad boy. This is like
agree. False equivalence. You're right. The issue I have.
This isn't some John Matuzak, Jack Tatum shit. This is like, yo. Yeah. The fuck are you doing? And even amongst athletes, and you know this better than me, there is a code.
That's what I'm saying. And this was crazy is the code extends past athletics. That's just like some man shit. Like,
right.
If I got a problem with you, like it's like we used to call it, just like either shoot a 30, shoot my fair one, and we handle it like that, or we talk it out like men.
I have a conversation.
Yeah, and especially as made men like that. You both millionaires, you're both public figures. Go holler at him.
And you're in that fraternity.
Go holler at him, man. Just like you can get a hold of him. Go holler. Like all this like posting DMs, like dog, I couldn't do it. That's all I can say is I couldn't do it. But this is the bigger issue.
What do you
this
think
is the bigger issue
happened between these two guys?
I don't know. There's no. I kind of do, but the issue is this.
So it's chicks and money.
There's two. Nah, I don't think it's that.
Okay, all right,
I don't think it's that corny. I hope it's not that corny. But two. It's not even juju because I can't even. He's not even doing anything. He's just saying it's whack.
Right.
But it's just two black men beefing in public, and I hate that shit. I hate that shit, and I just think that's deep rooted self problems. Like there's no reason though. You a multi-millionaire. You just signed another multi-million-dollar contract.
You got everything you wanted.
You got everything you ever wanted, and you should do nothing. You should do nothing but spread love and try to bring up everybody under you and everybody around you. Like that's the energy that you need to be
especially
portraying.
Your teammate.
It doesn't even matter because I can remember we played when I was in college. Like we played Alabama and I went to the University of Tennessee, and I'm not very favorable in the eyes of the Tennessee fans because I never got caught up in that shit. Because I remember we playing Alabama and this dude's twisting my ankle under the pile of shit. And I got up, I was like, my nigga, you love Alabama like that? Like, why you trying to hurt me, dog? I'm trying to get to the league like you. What's wrong with you? He's twisting my ankle under the pile. And I told him, I was like, dog, you love Alabama like that, dog? Like, I was like, dog, I'm not, you just went to Alabama? What is it? Like, we had 100,000 people watching the game and I'm talking to him like that. I know he felt the kind of way. He was like, yeah, my bad, dog. I'm like, we just out here trying to eat, dog. Like,
yeah, what the fuck are you doing?
What are you doing? Like, and that's why I never understood that. But that mentality is deeply rooted. That's a whole nother conversation. But that's where I came from. Like, dog, all of us came from nothing. Why are we sitting here beefing over this stupid ass shit? We should be opening schools together. We should be opening parks together. We should be changing the narrative of the sports athlete in general. But you want to bring up talking about his fumble? Come on, cousin. That's I can't.
I didn't understand.
I can't relate.
This is crazy.
I can't relate. It's just
and to me, it's like, yo, Antonio,
it's gross.
You could be like, you want to be that dude, but like. You could really be that dude, and then like you're doing this shit, and also like then I start to think like I'm like Terrell Owens, Ocho Cinco, like yo, you thought those dudes are especially for a wide receiver,
right.
You know he loved them, he has to respect them. Like yo, the NFL were like when they had a chance to be like, we're done with you, they didn't leave on their terms.
Nope.
And Antonio, if you burn bridges and all that shit. And I wish no injury on any athlete, but because injury here, you get older here, you get cut here, and next thing you know, you're out of the league and you're not on your terms.
Father Time will catch up with you.
And his talent shouldn't be like that. Like his talent should be like he should go down as one of the greats. And this is one of those things.
He will though.
But this is one of those things where they start like this isn't the end all be all, but it could be the start of where people be like this every time they mention the great player, they're like, but he was this, that, and this, and he was on some bullshit, and it starts to become part of your thing. Because now with Ocho Cinco and Terrell, it's like, yo, all that's mixed in there. They didn't leave on their terms. You got Terrell talking about, yo, I'm going to try out for teams because he didn't get that last hurrah.
Man, not to me, not T.O. T.O. is second greatest receiver of all time.
I fuck with T.O.
Second greatest receiver.
But all the shit
I got Randy, I got T.O., then I got Jerry Rice. It's because he did the chicken commercial, but that's a whole nother conversation.
but like the T.O. thing.
He blocked me on Twitter?
Did he? Why were you talking shit?
Because I was talking shit about that chicken commercial. That shit was the corniest shit in the world. It was awful. I don't even want to get you into it. Don't even worry about it.
Yeah, I got enough. I got enough sports.
Yeah, you got to check out that one. But yo, before the podcast started, we was rapping about this, and I just want to get your opinion.
Okay.
Leaving Neverland.
Yes.
Did you see the documentary?
Yes.
Okay, you saw the documentary.
I watched the whole thing, all 4
Okay,
plus
that
hours.
shit was long. I started at 11. I fucked up. I didn't know it was 4 hours. I started at 11 o'clock at night, and I couldn't stop watching. So
Did you watch?
I watched the whole
back
thing
to back?
back to back, and I had a flight at like 6 in the morning, so I slept good on the flight.
Damn,
but
that's a lot to watch.
yeah, I was doing too much. But I'll preface it with this: I just released a podcast where I broke down all the Michael Jackson allegations,
Right.
and so the reason why I looked into it was because I watched that documentary, and I'll tell you what I felt about it afterwards. But you tell me what
This is what I think. Historically in Hollywood, whether it's fucking Elvis being on drugs, Marilyn Monroe, Whitney Houston. I remember when people started saying Whitney Houston was on crack, it was like, are you fucking kidding me? This is like cookie cutter, pop singer, goody two shoes, to all the different fucking great Hollywood scandals.
Mm-hmm.
Traditionally, whether they're kind of true, partially true, or all the way fucking true, like after it comes a rumor, where there's smoke, there's fire, and there's been so much now smoke with Michael Jackson regarding these allegations for so long, and whether these guys are telling 100% truth, 15% truth, one guy's telling. I have to say, when I watched that fucking documentary, I was like, something's amiss. This is my opinion.
Right.
Like, and I'm like, it was so detailed, and you watched it, and so way out there, and we could say the parents are involved, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if the parents are responsible. If there's any infraction of touching kids, you're a shitbag.
I agree 1,000%.
So I didn't do like what I'm assuming is a deep dive.
Yeah.
But I'm just like, when you watch that documentary all the way through, and a lot of people didn't, and they have opinions on it, I'm like, yo, if you watch that doc, like, yo, this is hard to argue with. Based on the documentary and the details of what they spoke on.
Right.
I think that fucking bug just went down my
Did it?
It was Michael Jackson.
I saw him hovering. Yeah, it's the ghost of Mike saying,
God
hold on, player.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Holy shit.
That's hilarious.
So, God damn. What did you think after watching it and your deep dive?
So this is
And I will say this also.
Go ahead.
Thing before I turn to you. My example is this. When I was a kid, there was a corner store. Let's call it a corner store. It was like Rite Aid or CVS before there was one those. It was kind of like a pharmacy.
bodega.
Not even that.
Okay.
It was like a corner store kind of like
you.
fucking like a Rite Aid
Where you
before
get
Rite Aid.
NyQuil and shit.
The neighborhood Rite Aid. I used to go in there when I was a kid, steal shit all the time. Pack of gum. Not a lot of shit, like some Now or Laters. Sometimes I'd buy shit, like I'd go there to get paper for school. I'd steal Twinkies. Like one thing, not like I was on a fucking major league fucking spree. I never got caught.
Good
Okay.
on you.
But I committed the crime.
Good, 100%.
Okay. Whether or not they convict Donald Trump of collusion with Russia, we all feel like, man, if you didn't do something that we could catch you, you did something here.
Right.
Okay. So me stealing from this place called Lamson's Gum, or Trump doing Russia, or the millions of people that have gotten away with crimes that never went to jail, or the millions of people that are in jail, or you hear about these guys 33 years, get out of prison, they are fucking innocent.
Right.
Sometimes you do shit, you don't get caught. Just like me stealing the gum and fucking Trump with Russia. So that's my preface on that.
I got you. All right.
Let me hear what you spoke on.
So-
what you found out.
So this is what I did. So when I watched the documentary, when I grew up, and all this is in the podcast. And if you haven't watched that podcast, go ahead. It got picked up by the Michael Jackson fan community, so they're kind of sharing it amongst themselves. So this is what happened. So when I was growing up, I always thought Michael Jackson was guilty, because same things, like when there's smoke, there's fire. Like, how could you have all these allegations that something ain't popping? Like, come on, fam. And like I said, it was folklore in our culture. Michael Jackson was synonymous with kiddie stuff. Like,
Right.
It just was what it was, and I just accepted it. But I always separated the art from the artist because that's Mike Jackson. I loved his music.
Yeah.
So I watched the documentary thinking he was guilty. I'm feeling like I know he was guilty, right? And when I watched it, what I got from it was I felt like I was being lied to. Like, those dudes were not convincing to me. And and granted, people can definitely watch that documentary and feel like, oh, they gave such heartfelt testimony. I get that. But what I got from it was it wasn't believable. Like, just when they were talking to me, I just didn't feel it, right? I had questions about the documentary. Like, a lot of things didn't make sense to me. Like, if you're, and I didn't even mention this in the podcast, but like, if you were being touched by Michael Jackson for 4 years and you realize as an adult, why even 7 years after you realize do you keep the memorabilia of him, as far as like the rings? Like, he had a wedding ceremony. Like, why would you keep those rings, right? And even if you didn't, and even if you kept those rings, you said there was wedding vows and you filled out the wedding vows. Why don't you have the wedding vows? You don't have the wedding vows, but you kept the rings. And why would you keep it? A lot of this shit just was like, what? And so I went in thinking he was guilty. I came out thinking, okay, he's probably guilty, but I need to dig into this. And so I started digging into this. And what I found was this. This is split camp. You have people that no matter what you say, they think he's innocent. And you have people that no matter what you say, they think he's guilty. And there's websites and there's evidence and yada, yada. So what you have to do, and what I did as a rational human being was, I said, okay, there's public available information about the subject.
Right.
So I dug in. Like, I read depositions. I read court documents. I read testimony. I read all of this stuff. And so I break it down. And I'm not going to go through the whole thing because it was a long-ass podcast. It was like 2-hour podcast. But it's basically 4 allegations that Michael, there's a 5th one, but it's really bad. But there's basically 4 allegations. And it started with a guy named Jordan Chandler. And so,
is he the one whose kid was the father was a dentist?
Was a dentist, right. And so when you dig into that case, like, I dug into that case, I read depositions, I read transcripts, I read all of this stuff. The inconsistencies with it, like you have kids? You have kids, right?
Yeah, 17 and 19.
So you have kids, right? So say your kid comes to you as a 12-year-old and said, so-and-so touched me.
Yeah.
What's the first thing that you do?
Well, I mean,
After consoling the kid. After the kid, you console the kid and make sure.
I mean, you fuck, I don't know, because I can't imagine, like.
Yeah, it's tough. It's a tough situation.
Yeah, I mean, you think, oh, I'm going to go kill the guy.
No. Aside from, like, say you don't want to put him in any, like, you don't want to have him lose his father after a situation like that.
Right.
So you make a rational decision.
You call the cops, right?
You call the fucking authorities.
Right.
You get authorities involved. What was that guy's first move?
Well, I don't know. What was it?
He got a civil attorney. A civil attorney. Now, I even broke this down in the podcast. There's a difference between civil charges and criminal charges.
Right. O.J. Simpson being the greatest example.
Yeah, he got off on the criminal and he lost the civil case.
Right.
Civil is nothing. It's just about monetary gains, or like you get a restraining order, something like that. My guy goes and gets a civil attorney.
That was the first thing he did?
The first thing he did was get a civil attorney. And so, I mean, after he gets a civil attorney, right? So there's a lot of shit that happens, right? And this is just the first allegation, right? But there's a lot of shit that happens. There was the law in California was, and I'm gonna make this short because it's long, dog. But the law in California was this, and OJ was a prime example of it. Is that you can't have a civil trial before a criminal for the same crime. The civil has to preclude the criminal,
right? But
when Michael Jackson went through that first allegation, that wasn't the case. You could have the civil before the criminal, and so that's what happened. So you're Michael Jackson. You got alleged of these crimes. You're saying, okay, and Michael Jackson's attorneys filed for motions that said, let's postpone the civil and let's do the criminal after. I mean, let's postpone the civil and do it after the criminal. Let's do the criminal, which is logical because you're saying, if you're Michael Jackson, you're saying, I gotta present all my evidence as to why I'm innocent in a criminal case, and if I do that, the prosecution, which is the state, it's not the family, it's the state. The state's gonna look at my evidence and build their case around that.
Right.
So if I'm fighting for my life, I'd rather have that civil shit out of the way.
Right.
The judge denied that motion plenty times.
Right.
They tried to do, but he wouldn't. The civil went first. So the civil went first. So he's saying, all right, do I present my evidence or do I say, fuck it? Like let's settle this out of court.
Right. Like pay a speeding ticket even though you might not have
Right. And here's the caveat. Here's the caveat. They settled. And that's people who are like, well, why would you settle if you was guilty? Well, that's fine. But in that settlement agreement, there's no admission of guilt. 2, nothing in that agreement said you still can't press charges because the criminal case was still ongoing. The kid or the parents, they all refused to testify in the criminal case that was ongoing after the settlement. So the issue to me is this. You're either a liar or you're a piece of shit.
Mm-hmm.
And so the reason why I say you're a piece of shit because all right, you got your money, but now you're enabling a man with immense amount of wealth and power to continue to manipulate kids if that's what you think that he did.
Right.
You have a responsibility to put that man behind bars if that's what he did.
Right.
Because what do we know about pedophiles? I studied the DSM-5 and pedophilia. I studied all that shit. And what is
They keep going.
They have a pattern and they do it over and they do it over and they have many victims. And so if that is the case, you have a responsibility to put that man behind bars and you chose not to. And to get even deeper, this is the last point I'm gonna make. After the case, months after they settled the case, the kid filed for emancipation from his parents. Get even deeper. 4 months after Michael Jackson died, the dad committed suicide.
Oh shit!
It's deep as fuck. And this is the crazy shit. The deeper you dig into every
Jordan, what's his name?
Jordan Chandler's father committed suicide.
I didn't know that.
And Jordan Chandler's alive today, but he won't say anything. He won't say yes or no. He's silent, which that's his right. He can do it. But my thing is this. Every single allegation I dug into was just like that. It's like, hold on, dog. Like something's not right. Something is not right. And so I went in thinking Mike was guilty. I came out thinking, not only do I think he's innocent, I think he was an amazing human being.
So what do you think would be the reason for the two people in Finding Neverland to go so deep and so detailed and so descriptive? What would be like? Are they total sociopath, crazy people to make that shit up?
You'd have to. This is what I concluded because I came in unbiased as far as like, okay, I'm gonna settle out for myself. This is the conclusion I came to. You either have to be on this side where you say Michael Jackson ran one of the most elaborate child pedophilia rings the world has ever seen, and he's a master criminal mind. Or Michael Jackson was one of the greatest giving, loving, kind human beings that has ever walked this planet, and he got taken advantage of. You really can't ride the fence. And so when I looked at each allegation...
Well, why can't he be both? Let's just say...
I'll tell you why you can't be both. Because if you're a great and amazing, giving, kind, caring human being, you're not fucking kids. Period. You can give all you want, but you taking lives away from people. So this is what I came to.
But if you're sick, you do sick shit.
100%. So it's all possible. Everything's possible, and everything's on the table. And I even said in the podcast, I was like, yo, I'll never know. Nobody will ever know. When a man closes his doors, nobody knows what goes on behind those doors. But I look at the allegations. So when you start looking at the allegations, right, and you start looking at the timelines, and say a timeline doesn't match up. So like in the documentary, there's a scene, and this gets deep. So the guy, James Safechuck, there's a scene in it where he talks about him and Michael had sex in a train station like a whole bunch of times.
Yeah.
Right? Well, the internet dug up some shit, and that train station wasn't built until 1993. It wasn't approved for building in 19 because you got to get
right.
So it wasn't approved for building until 1993. In the documentary and in his court claim, because he's suing MJJ Productions and he's suing Michael Jackson's estate, saying that they were implicit in the shit, which is a whole nother topic. But in the claim, he said he was molested from 1988 to 1992. That train station didn't get approved for building until 1993. It is a blatant and falsified. It's a lie.
That I didn't know that.
And so
I heard about something.
The deeper part is the director of the film. He tried to combat it on Twitter, because on Twitter, Twitter is Twitter. He's combating it, and he goes, yeah, you seem to be right about the floor plans and the approving of it, but what you got wrong is the dates of the abuse, or you dug yourself a deep hole because now what you're doing is you're calling the guy in your documentary a liar in court. In court, these are his alleged dates; those are his words. So you're calling him a liar now, and you directly conflict with the narrative that was your documentary. Because what was the narrative in the documentary? After the kids reach a certain age, he doesn't like them anymore.
Yeah.
And now you're saying that Michael Jackson wasn't just a pedophile; he liked teenage boys too. And now he's fucking 16-year-olds. That's counterintuitive to what the picture that you painted. You painted.
What about the other kid,
Wade Robson? And there's a whole bunch of stuff on that, right? So something like this. You didn't, and granted, this happens to sexual victims, abuse victims. Like you have onset and it doesn't hit you, or you don't realize like what happened to you. It's perfectly possible.
Yeah, that
perfectly possible. And I prefaced the conversation.
Did you see the Oprah interview with them?
Yeah. Oprah has deleted all her videos pertaining to that. Wow, but that's a whole nother. Like I said, the more you dig, the deeper it gets. But this is one subset of the Wade shit. All right, 6 months before, and this is in your court documents and everything that you've said in all that shit. They always say like I wasn't aware, I didn't know what it was, I didn't understand it. Well, one, you lied in your court documents because you said you didn't know that Michael Jackson had an estate. And the reason why you lied was because you can't sue the estate if you knew there was an estate. There's a 3 years statute limitations for that. So he lied. And the reason why we know he lied is because, one, he wrote in Michael Jackson's opus, and he wrote a loving message to Michael Jackson, and that was from Michael Jackson's estate that put it on. In 2011, he wrote an email because Michael Jackson's estate was doing a Cirque du Soleil show in Las Vegas, and he wrote an email saying, I want to be the guy that directs it.
Right.
That was to the Michael Jackson estate.
Right.
So we know he had an estate. So we know you lied about that. The other part was this. That was in 2011. He found out, or he realized he was sexually abused in 2012. Like 6 months before he realized, you remember that Smooth Criminal hat?
Yeah.
He sold that at an auction site called Julian's Auction. He sold that, and he sold Michael Jackson the Bad Gloves. He sold both those 6 months before he realized he was abused. To get even deeper, Julian's Auctions was on because they like this shit hit Twitter, and they was like, they responded. They're like, are these allegations true? They said, yeah. They said he sold them to us, and he wanted to remain anonymous, and we told him no, and we named it the Wade Robson Collection. So you want to sell Michael Jackson memorabilia 6 months before you realized you was abused, and you wanted to do it anonymously. Why would you want to do it anonymously?
How much did he sell it for?
The hat was like $50,000, and the gloves were like $40,000 or something like that. So, and there's so many instances like that. Those are just two I brought up, and each one has. It's like the more you dig, and they're suing for like anywhere from like I couldn't get an exact number, but the alleged is like anywhere from hundreds of millions of dollars, quote, or like $1.56 billion. So it's somewhere in that ballpark.
Shit.
So you're suing the Michael Jackson estate for that. And it just so happens that the language and the California sexual abuse laws allow somebody to sue an abuser if it was unbeknownst to them. Like
I got you.
It's either like a super coincidence or like something smelled fishy to me. And so I'm not calling them cats a liar. All I'm saying is I don't believe it. Like it's just there's too many things lining up that say to me. And so that's the thing, and that's why it took 3 weeks of research, because I'm reading through depositions.
You went fucking all in.
I went deep as fuck because I literally lost sleep over this shit. I was like, yo, because my son loves Michael Jackson. He's 5 years old. He dances to all his music. 4 years old. He dances to all his music, and he knows every fucking I could play PYT. I could play anything.
Crazy
and
that it translates.
He loves Michael Jackson. And I'm like, yo, I can't in good faith have my son keep banging Michael Jackson if Michael Jackson's a pedophile. I can bang him all day because I know what I'm doing. I'm conditioning him to love a pedophile.
I got you.
Can't do it. And so I dug deep. And the deeper you dig, the deeper it gets. And like I said, niggas can do all the research and still feel like he's guilty. Logically, when I saw it,
You did a deep.
I did a deep dive.
I hear you. And you said you started out thinking he was guilty.
I did.
Shit.
I knew it in my mind.
I got to listen to the pod.
Yeah, I'll send it to you. It's dope, man. But I don't want to keep you any more of your time, man. I know I know you've been gracious, man, and I
come on,
appreciate
man.
it.
I appreciate it.
You my guy, man. My podcast guy, man. I wanted to. I think we're gonna bump heads again, man, because we're joining ventures soon, and we'll explain that when the time comes.
Yep.
Actually, I think this is gonna be my first podcast on that platform.
Okay, cool.
So we're excited about that, man. But yeah, man, I appreciate you coming through. But we end the podcast the same way every time.
Okay.
And so every time, my mother was my first guest. And from my mother to Snoop Dogg to NASA Ashton, everybody say the same thing. I'm trying to get Jim Carrey on the podcast.
Okay,
That's
all
my
right.
guy. So I just
You love Jim Carrey?
I love Jim Carrey, man. I love Jim Carrey.
That's your favorite actor?
I don't know if he's my favorite actor, but I love who he is as a human.
All right.
And so
Jim
yeah, there
Carrey.
you go. There's your camera right here.
In the middle?
No,
Or-
the one on the
Jim
left.
Carrey, listen. I don't know if you're a football fan, Arian Foster. You have to be on Arian Foster, his podcast. He's a thoughtful, insightful, well-rounded podcaster. He wants you to be on his podcast. This isn't some Joe Schmo. Now, I know Jim Carrey, podcasts are like assholes. Everyone has one, but not every single one is like Arian Foster's podcast. You know me, Jim. I know you, okay? I'm co-signing. Yeah, I don't know him perfectly. Otherwise, I would text him right now and be like, Jim. But I'm co-signing. You got to be on Arian Foster's podcast. That's it. He's a big fucking fan. He's a real fan. And he's a real dude.
My guy. Much love. I appreciate you, bro.
Anytime,
brother.
Do it again.
And so I mean, you probably got a bigger follow than me, but if anybody wants to find you, where can they find you?
At Michael Rapaport, everything.
All right, man. He's the hot take, the mecca of hot takes, man. So we
Shit
appreciate
talker.
you. We appreciate you, bro.
Thank you.
Much love.